events and different experiences that I've had with Angus and Sheila. Well, I can't repeat it all today. Time wouldn't permit. But I've seen through the years that they have a faith which can go around in workday clothes. It's not something for Sabbath only. It's not theory only. It's reality to them. And they believe in practicing this. I recall some years ago when we were first out there way north of the town and on the farm, when our roads were a little lower than the ditches. And you know what happens when the first snowstorm comes along. And then we'd be behind the snowdrift for a number of months at a time sometimes. You know, one of these days when we would have been there behind the snowdrift for a long time, I looked to the south and well, there's some strange object on the road there. I was wondering what that was. And gradually this object came closer and I could make out it was a team of horses and a sled and a man in it. Well, of course, it's none other than Angus. And he just came out simply to see whether we still had supplies. Well, now I thought that was terrific. You know, he might have found all kinds of reasons and excuses why he shouldn't go down that road. After all, that'd be pretty hard on the horses. It was cold, and yeah, I'm sure he had other things to do, too. But as I said, his faith puts on workday clothes. It's not for Sunday or Sabbath only. So he came to check up on us. And I recall another time when I was in the hospital, I was sick for a few days. And we have many good friends. And a number of them said, well, if there's something we can do for you, let us know and we'll come out and help you. Well, Angus didn't say that. Angus just came out, went straight to the barn. This was in winter. And you know what a barn looks like when shoreman hasn't been around for a few days. So he pulled the stone wood into the barn, he cleaned out the barn, he hitched his truck to it, hauled it out, unhitched again and went home. Not a word was said. Now that's faith in workday clothes. And I appreciate that immensely. You know, the Bible speaks about a neighbor. The Bible speaks about this man who went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and on the way he met up with a gang, a rough gang. They beat up on him, they robbed him, and they left him lying there beside the road. And a priest, you know, priests are religious people who've been well educated. They know all their theory and their theology. A priest came by, and I suppose he looked at him and said, well, poor guy. He went on. And a Levite, likewise, and a Samaritan. A Samaritan in those days, as far as the Jews were concerned, were the rejects of society. And I don't mean to say that Angus and Sheila are rejects. It'd be far from me to say that. But the Jews looked upon the Samaritans as the rejects. And this Samaritan, who might have had many reasons and excuses for going on, because he was on a journey, maybe had a deadline to meet, and surely he had other interests, but he couldn't pass by. He just had to stop and do something about it. So he took care of this poor man. You know, and I think of that Samaritan. I think of Angus and Sheila. They are Samaritans in the true sense of the word. They always have time. I've been in their home many times. It doesn't matter whether it's Sunday or Monday or Sabbath or whatever it is. They're always the same. Their door is always open to you. You always receive a friendly reception. And I think Angus and Sheila are terrific. And I wish them many more years of together living. God bless you, Angus and Sheila. Thanks for this opportunity.
I think John's a good preacher, don't you? Wonderful, John, and that's a real tribute to neighbor. And I like the phrase that you coined here. I don't know if it's written.
And it will surprise you what the Lord has done. with his flashlight looking around. This was way on in the night. He started looking around and he said, "What's all this stuff you have in the back of your pickup?" And he started examining it, and he found it was marked with the school in Edmonton, the school district of Edmonton. There were motors and there was all kinds of equipment in the back of the pickup. And so the policeman thought he had a prize. He listened to his story, and this was the story that Dennis told. Dennis said, "Well, my brother-in-law works for the school district up there in Saskatchewan, and they were cleaning out their shops and had a whole lot of motors and electrical equipment and things like this that they were not using anymore. They were going to throw them to the dump." And he said he had permission to give them to his friend. And knowing what Murray and Dennis were doing in the farm, well, they thought that would be a good prize and put it in the back of their pickup. But the policeman said, "Oh, I've heard that kind of a story before." He said, "You come with me." So he followed the policeman over to Hayward and went into the presence of the chief there and told the story, and he thought, the young officer thought he had a real prize, you know. And went on into the usual thing, and finally the chief said to Dennis, he said, "Do you know Angus Foulston of Chigaski?" "Yes, he's my uncle." "Do you know Roy Foulston?" "Oh, yes, he's my father." "Proud as could be, yes, he's my father." "Well, then," he said, "you know Murray, don't you?" "Yes, he's my brother." The officer turned to the young policeman that took him in. He said, "This fellow belongs to that Foulston group over there in Chigaski. If he tells you that story of how he got there, that story is true." He said, "You go mind your own business and I'll look after this." I think that a good name is rather to be chosen in great riches and loving favor more than silver and gold. I just thought maybe that tribute to Angus had a reputation all over the country. I went over here one time when I was 2 years ago. I was just curious in building, way out here beyond Central Butte. And I got curious at a building. There was something that I'd never seen before, and so during the noon hour I went out there and investigated, acted kind of like an inspector. Pretty soon the superintendent came around and began to ask questions, and he looked at me and said, "You look as if you might be Foulston, are you?" I looked at him and said, "Whatever would he think of a Foulston way up there?" "Well," he said, "you look so much like Angus and Roy." He said, "You must belong to the Foulston family." And so he told me what good working relationships he had with Angus and Roy in the community. And he was a contractor businessman from, I think, Yorkton, way down in eastern Saskatchewan. And so I just thought of that verse again. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor more than silver and gold.
Aunt Sheila and Uncle Angus, you are a very special aunt and uncle. Not that all the aunts and uncles who are here aren't special, too, for each one of you is special in your own unique way. What a privilege it is to be a niece of all you wonderful aunts and uncles. And I don't mean just the Foulstons, but their spouses as well. For the Foulstons have surely been blessed with wonderful spouses. And one of them is my Aunt Sheila. Aunt Sheila, do you know what I think of when I think of you? The Beatitude, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God," and lemon pie. And I'm sure if I were to ask the opinions of all of you who are here, no one would disagree, unless there happens to be someone here who has not had the privilege of tasting Aunt Sheila's lemon pie. To you, I would say you have missed something in your life. Aunt Sheila, I use the same recipe you do, but my pies never turn out like yours. Uncle Angus, it must be a real challenge to maintain your good figure with a good cook like her in the house. You know, I even have the courage to to try to make your bun recipe one day, but you've never recognized the bun as from your recipe. It must have something to do with a special bit of love you put into your baking, along with your years of experience. Has anyone ever seen Aunt Sheila really upset? I mean, really upset? I never have, but I can imagine if ever she was, we would soon find her in her bedroom on her knees. Aunt Sheila, you have been a wonderful inspiration to me. You are the oil on troubled waters, the balm that heals the soul. You are also sweet and patient, kind and loving, giving and selfless, and always thinking of others rather than yourself. I love to hear you play Falling Waters. Your touch on the piano is special too. You love to play the organ in the little country church, and I loved to hear you play it. Uncle Angus, what do you think? What do I think of when I think of you? Yes. Anybody? Horses, of course. And sleigh bells. Never do I hear jingle bells or see the picture of a horse, but I think of you and the sleigh rides through your coulee. You are the one that taught me to love and respect horses. The first time I saw you ride a horse, I vowed I'd ride one just the same, but of course I never did. For your expertise with horses comes only with a special knack and years of experience. You were patient but firm as you instilled confidence in me, that I really could persuade a horse to go where I wanted it to go and still stay on its back. And it wasn't long until I felt as at home on a horse as on my feet the summer I spent with you when I was 14. What a wonderful summer it was. Never shall I forget that summer, as I learned to love the rolling hills and sagebrush of the prairie. Nature seemed at its best that summer. The sunsets, the clouds, the moon, the air. Have you ever noticed the silhouette of a grain elevator against the sunset? Spectacular. The memory shall live with me always. Driving the hay rack, rounding up the cows in the coulee, milking the cows. You taught me how to do all those things, Uncle Angus. Then there were the trips to Moose Jaw and a huge ice cream cone on the way home. Somehow it tasted better than the ice cream we have today. Sabbath was so special, so sacred in your home. You were so very careful about everything we did on that day. I think even the animals sensed the specialness of it. They were never neglected. I was always glad when Sabbath came, attending the little country church with you and meeting the rest of the family there. The potlucks afterwards and the walks through the fields and the coulee, sundown worship and a trip to town. I'm glad my children have had the privilege of knowing you. Your lives have touched theirs in a special way too. You have made memories for them, lasting ones, and they love you dearly. So many memories. How can I ever thank you for them? I have bushels and bushels of them. Thank you, Aunt Sheila and Uncle Angus. God bless you both on your 50th wedding anniversary.
Thanks, Ruby. That was certainly a touching tribute, wasn't it?